Today, once again, Ukrainian drones penetrated deep into Russian airspace and struck targets inside Moscow. And yet again, airports were closed. Panic spread. People scrambled for answers. But while these strikes are dramatic, they're only a symptom of something much bigger. What's happening inside Russia right now goes far beyond a few successful drone attacks. The real story, the one that matters, is that something inside the Russian state is breaking. Something deep, structural, and possibly irreversible. While Vladimir Putin wants to project stability, control, and resilience to the world, the truth behind the polished propaganda is brutal. His regime is imploding, not just militarily, not just economically, but at its very core, fiscally, structurally, and politically. This war is not just bleeding out the Russian army, it's hollowing out the state itself. And faced with growing instability, what does Putin do? What all autocrats eventually do: consolidate power even more tightly, eliminate dissent, create a parallel state of fear, and place absolute trust in the one institution he believes won't betray him: the security services. And that's why something that happened just yesterday is so significant. The Russian Duma, which serves more as a rubber stamp for Putin than a real parliament, passed a law that gives the FSB, Russia's security service, the power to create and run its own prison system. Even the military doesn't have that kind of autonomy. So why does the FSB want this power? Why is this such a seismic shift? To answer that, let's look at history. The last time the secret police had its own prison network in Russia was under Stalin, during the Great Terror. Back then, Stalin created parallel legal and prison systems to ensure total control. No oversight, no interference, pure, unchecked authority. And that's exactly what Putin is trying to recreate. These prisons won't exist for logistics or justice. They exist for repression, for silencing dissent, for locking away people that even the police or military wouldn't touch. They're being built to prepare for the coming internal collapse, for the need to arrest, isolate, and silence even those inside the regime. It's a signal that Putin no longer trusts anyone. Not the courts, not the military, not even parts of his own government. Take the case of Roman Stovo, Russia's Minister of Transportation. Just hours before his official firing by Putin, he was found dead, allegedly a suicide. But Putin fired him anyway, knowing full well he was already dead. That wasn't a clerical error. That was a message, a warning, a declaration that no one, not even high-level ministers, is safe. Not from scrutiny, not from punishment, and not from elimination. We are now watching a regime that is eating itself. When ministers are being found dead, when oligarchs are being arrested on their private jets, and when the secret police are setting up their own gulags, this is no longer just authoritarianism. It's the collapse of a political system. This brings us to a broader pattern: corruption, fear, and dysfunction. Let's look at Stovo again. He was allegedly being investigated for embezzling over 240 million. That money was meant to go toward the defense of Kursk, a region that has now become vulnerable to Ukrainian attacks. Not only was the money gone, the defenses weren't even built. Ukraine attacked anyway. Kursk was left undefended. This level of dysfunction isn't isolated, it's systemic. It's rot from the top down. In the past week alone, Ukrainian drones have struck deep into Russian territory. Not just Moscow, but also Belgorod, Kursk, Voronezh, even St. Petersburg. Air bases with strategic bombers have been hit, and Putin has no real way to stop it. Instead, he becomes more paranoid, more irrational. He lashes out, not at Ukraine, but internally. For example, just days ago, Konstantin Stru, one of Russia's wealthiest oligarchs and a member of Putin's own party, was arrested as he boarded his private jet. Authorities are now moving to nationalize 100% of his assets. This isn't rule of law, it's desperation. And it doesn't end there. Let's talk numbers. Oil and gas, the backbone of Russia's economy, account for about 40% of its national budget. But in June, revenues were down by 34% year over year. That's massive. It forced the Kremlin to rewrite its entire budget and triple its projected deficit for 2025. Russian crude is trading at around $52 a barrel, far below the $70 baseline set in the national budget. The biggest buyers, China and India, are demanding even steeper discounts, and the US is now planning to impose 500% tariffs on any countries that continue buying Russian oil, which could cause even China and India to pull back. This would be catastrophic for Russia's economy, and oil companies are already suffering. In Q1 of 2025, Russian oil firms collectively lost $4.5 billion. Rosneft profits collapsed by 74%, Lukoil by 82%. Gazprom Neft is posting outright losses, and Q2 is expected to be even worse. The Russian energy sector is in free fall. But it's not just energy. Coal revenues have dropped by 60%. The real estate market is also collapsing. Year-on-year sales are down 13%, but in Moscow, sales of new buildings are down 42%. Developers are going bankrupt. The middle class has stopped buying. Consumer confidence is gone. Restaurant visits are down 33%. Meanwhile, food prices have soared, up by 22 to 50%. The average Russian can no longer afford to eat out, or even eat properly at home. And the Russian budget? It's bleeding rubles. In just 6 months, the deficit has hit 3.7 trillion rubles, over $41 billion. Revenues rose by only 2.8%, while spending surged by 20%. Inflation is officially at 9.8%, but even that seems optimistic. The real value of Russia's revenue is dropping faster than they can spend it. And then there's the National Welfare Fund, the safety net for Russian society. It's already being drained to prop up failing state-owned enterprises. In the first half of 2025 alone, the Kremlin spent nearly $6 billion from the fund. That's more than half of what they spent in all of 2024. Economists are warning it could be fully depleted by 2026. That would be devastating. No pensions, no subsidies, nothing left for the people. To keep up with spending, the ruble is expected to be devalued from around 80 to the dollar to 120 or even 130. That would wipe out up to 50% of people's savings and purchasing power in just months. And the banks? They're barely hanging on. The central bank is constantly intervening just to keep them liquid. They've even imposed withdrawal limits to prevent bank runs, a desperate measure to stop mass panic. Despite all of this, Putin's propaganda machine works overtime to convince the world and Russians that everything is fine. But it's not. Not even close. Behind the curated images and slogans, Russia is in a full-blown crisis. Structurally, economically, politically. This war was supposed to bring Putin more power, more land, more control. Instead, it's tearing down everything he built and taking Russia with it. The truth is, if you want a better future for Russia, the Putin regime has to go. Because right now, it's not just at war with Ukraine. It's at war with its own people, and it's losing both. Thanks for watching, and if you don't want to miss future updates, make sure to like and subscribe.